You know, it's not every day you get picked for one of these deep dives. We really, we go through a lot to choose the right stuff for you. And this one's a doozy.
Oh, yeah.
So today we're going to take a look at this interview Trump did, former President Trump gave to Newsmax. Now it's January 2025. He's getting ready to get back in the political ring. And, well, let's just say he's not holding back.
No, not at all.
So right out of the gate,
right away.
He says the Biden years, those were the lowest point in American history.
Wow.
Calls them total failures when it comes to the economy, immigration, foreign policy, you name it.
It's interesting, you know, he doesn't just disagree with the policies, right? He's framing it as like total disaster.
Right.
And that language really packs a punch, especially for his base.
Yeah, like America's been wounded, got to heal the country, all that.
Exactly. It's that shared sense of grievance. That's powerful stuff.
And he doesn't just stop at, you know, policy critiques.
Yeah.
He points the finger directly at General Milley for Putin invading Ukraine.
Oh, wow. So he's saying that Milley, he's projecting weakness, and Putin saw an opening.
That's what he's saying. Then there's the whole immigration, what he calls the immigration crisis.
Right.
He's claiming millions of criminals and murderers, like way more than the official numbers, have come across the border.
It really feels like a tactic to just ratchet up the fear, doesn't it?
Oh, for sure.
Play on those anxieties.
Yeah, and it gets wilder. He even says that foreign leaders are like intentionally sending their criminals here, like they're emptying their jails into the U.S.
It all feeds into that narrative he's been pushing for years, that America's being taken advantage of, the system's rigged, plays really well with his supporters.
Then, out of nowhere, he goes on this tangent about the California wildfires.
Yeah, the wildfires. He directly connects those fires, those horrible fires, to California's policies on water.
And forest management.
Right, forest management.
Yeah.
He even compares the damage to a nuclear bomb.
He uses this imagery like, you know, melted steel beams, needing German shepherds to find bodies in the ash.
It's apocalyptic stuff, right? And look, California, they do have droughts, but what he's saying, it seems maybe a little over the top.
Yeah.
But that imagery, so strong, so vivid, it creates a sense of urgency, plays on those fears people already have about, you know, climate change and disasters.
Yeah. So he's painting this pretty dark picture, right? But then he offers a glimmer of hope. He hints at this hostage deal with Hamas.
Oh, right, the hostages. So he implies it's almost done, and that Trump coming back to power, that's the reason why.
But then he says this like really chilling line. He says, if they don't get it done, there's going to be a lot of trouble out there. A lot of trouble like they have never seen before.
Vague, so vague.
But menacing.
Yeah, like what kind of trouble? What's he talking about? Military action.
Sanctions.
It definitely leaves you hanging, wondering what he might do.
Totally ups the stakes.
It also reinforces this idea that with Trump back in charge, things will change, right? He's not afraid to use force.
No, not at all.
To get what he wants.
Okay, so then we move on to Ukraine.
Ukraine, yeah.
And he claims, get this, that he could end the war all by himself in 6 months. 6 months. Just by talking to Putin.
Wow. That's a bold statement.
Bold is putting it mildly.
Especially with his history, you know, praising Putin, downplaying the whole Russia threat. But, you know, for a lot of Americans, tired of war, desperate for peace.
Yeah.
This might sound really appealing.
He goes on and on about how terrible the war is, the deaths, the brutality. It's really different from his usual America First stuff.
Yeah, there's almost a sense of trying to connect with the Ukrainians, you know, emphasizing the human cost. But is it genuine empathy? Or is this, you know, him trying to look like the peacemaker? Hard to say.
All right, and finally, we get to what might be the biggest surprise of this whole interview, his take on TikTok.
TikTok, you're kidding?
This is the guy who tried to ban it during his first term.
I know, right?
Now he's talking about how powerful it is.
He's even bragging about how well he did with young voters on TikTok.
He even had this 21-year-old kid, TikTok Jack, working on his campaign.
Oh, wow. This is a complete 180 from before.
Total reversal.
It shows you he's not stupid. He sees how things are changing. TikTok, it's huge, especially for young people. He knows that if he wants to stay relevant, he's got to adapt, even if it means changing his tune.
He's still playing it safe, though, right?
Yeah.
Saying he'll wait for the Supreme Court to decide before he does anything.
But that's smart, too. It makes him look like he's listening, that he's willing to adjust. But he's also got wiggle room, you know? He can change his mind later if he needs to.
So with this interview, we see the classic Trump, the big claims, the fiery speeches, but also a different side.
More strategic.
A lot more calculated.
He's trying to appeal to his base, but he also knows he needs to, modernize his approach.
It's a really interesting look at how he's getting ready for round two. And it definitely makes you wonder what's going to happen next.
Oh, absolutely. So we're back, and this interview really shows how Trump communicates, his style.
It's like he's setting the stage for his whole second term right here. A little fear, a little hope, and a whole lot of storytelling.
Exactly. And one of those stories, remember, is immigration. The broken system, millions of criminals crossing the border, even saying foreign leaders are shipping their worst people here on purpose.
He even says he'll use executive orders to deport millions as soon as he's back in office. Is that even possible, though?
Mass deportations on that scale. I mean, logistically, legally, it'd be a nightmare.
So is he just, overpromising again, like we saw in his first term?
Well, remember, he loves the big pronouncements, right? Gets everyone fired up.
Yeah.
But actually doing it, governing's a lot messier than campaigning.
True enough.
Whether he can actually pull this off, well, we'll have to wait and see.
Then he jumps from immigration to the California wildfires. Seems totally random.
Yeah, but then he ties it back, right? Blames it all on California's policies, the environment, water, the whole thing.
Feels a bit like taking advantage of a tragedy.
There's that element, for sure. He paints California as this, failing state, talks about melted steel beams, search dogs finding bodies.
Yeah, it's pretty intense imagery.
He's playing on those fears, climate change, disasters, but then links it to policies he hates.
And this is what happens when you don't listen to me, kind of thing.
Exactly. Reinforces his own authority, makes his opponents look bad.
So we've got all this doom and gloom, but then, out of the blue, he brings up the Hamas hostage situation.
Right, and says the deal's almost done. Makes it sound like him being back in power is the only reason it's happening.
But then there's that line, if they don't get it done, there's going to be a lot of trouble out there.
Classic Trump. A bit of hope, then bam, a threat.
Keeps everyone guessing.
Yeah, what does trouble even mean? Military, sanctions, Who knows?
He wants people to be a little afraid.
It's power, right? He's the only one who can save these hostages, but you better not cross him.
Definitely a power move.
Diplomacy and threats all mixed together.
Talk about a shift. Then we go from hostages to the war in Ukraine.
Yeah, Ukraine. And he says 6 months. That's all he needs to end it. Just him and Putin talking.
Raises some eyebrows, considering how much he used to praise Putin.
Oh, yeah. But a lot of people are tired of war. They want it to be over.
And he's offering a solution.
He even spends all this time talking about how awful the war is, the people dying, really graphic stuff. Different from his usual America First talk.
Almost like he's trying to connect with the Ukrainians, show he understands their suffering.
Is it genuine, though? Or just a way to make himself look good? Hard to tell.
So then the most surprising part, his take on TikTok.
I still can't believe it.
The guy who tried to ban it.
I know.
Now he's bragging about how well he does with young voters on TikTok.
Even had a TikTok Jack working for him.
Total 180.
He's realizing the world's changing. TikTok is huge. He has to adapt, even if it means admitting he was wrong before.
Still playing it safe, though, waiting for the Supreme Court.
Smart move.
Yeah.
Makes him look flexible, but he can still back out if he needs to.
So, classic Trump, but also a new Trump. Big talk, but also thinking ahead.
He's trying to please his base, but also, update his image a bit.
It's fascinating. What's he going to do next? Well, we spent a lot of time with this Trump interview, and I got to say, I'm left with more questions than answers.
That's how he likes it, right? Keeps people on their toes, creates that uncertainty, that what's he going to do next kind of feeling.
It's like he's got this formula. You take a complicated problem, boil down to a simple phrase, then you add some fear, a little hope, and top it off with the threat. It's kind of mesmerizing, but also a little scary.
He really knows how to tap into those anxieties that people have. Losing their jobs, their safety, their way of life. He offers solutions, even if they're not realistic, but they speak to something deep down,
He paints the world as this dangerous place, right?
Yeah.
And then he's the only one who can fix it. Like the hero.
The savior, the deal maker.
Yeah, the deal maker.
And that's what makes it dangerous, I think. He's taking those real anxieties and using them, building his own power, and, well, it's not good for democracy, is it?
So looking back at everything we've talked about, what do you think is the most important takeaway here? What does this interview tell us about where America is right now?
I think, honestly, buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Trump back in charge, it means it means those divisions in our country, they're going to get even deeper.
Yeah.
We're going to see more of the same stuff. The over-the-top rhetoric, ignoring facts, all the drama. It's going to be exhausting.
They're not wrong there.
But it's also a reminder that we got to stay involved. You know, we can't just sit back and watch. We got to be informed, speak up, and hold those in power accountable. It doesn't matter what party they're from.
They say knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And you've definitely given us a lot to think about today. What surprised you the most? Did anything change how you think about Trump? His tactics or what's facing the country?
Honestly, the TikTok thing, I still can't get over it. The guy wanted to ban it. And now he's bragging about it, saying he knows how to use it. Shows you he's not really driven by ideology, is he?
No.
He's practical. He'll change his mind if it helps him win.
Like always adapting.
Right. Adapting, figuring out what works. That's something we can all learn from, even if we don't like his methods, you know? Being flexible, seeing different perspectives. Those are good skills to have.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm kind of torn. You know, part of me is like fascinated by this guy, by how he operates. But the other part, I'm worried. What's this second term going to look like? What's going to happen to America, to the world?
Only time will tell.
We'll definitely be watching closely, trying to make sense of it all.
That's our job, right?
Exactly. So keep your eyes open, stay informed, and keep those questions coming. Thanks for joining us on this crazy ride. Until next time.